Hi there and welcome to my video today. I am going to go through some easy ways to get started with a mixed media page. If you are new to the mixed media arena, I'm excited to have you here because sometimes that beginner's block can get in the way of you being creative, and we just want some easy ways into the actual painting or page. So today I'm going to go over 3 ways that you can get started, and they're very simple. So let's get into it. The first way that I like to get started personally is through collage papers. So I make a lot of different collage papers on my jelly plate. These are some examples. I do it on rice paper here. I did this on some deli paper. Whatever paper kind of works for you is the best kind of paper to use. This one is actually copy paper. It's also from my jelly plate. So you just want to kind of experiment and see what kind of papers appeal to you, and then you can kind of go from there with different colors. I also use scrapbook paper, just kind of commercial scrapbook paper. It can have some interesting designs and patterns and colors. So what I would suggest first is to figure out what kind of adhesive works for you as well. So this is a satin medium. It's more of like a liquid. Just kind of show you how it comes out. Kind of comes out as more a liquidy material, and this is gel. So this was something you would use for a little bit more of a thicker paper to put down. So if I wanted to put this down, I would just put some gel on, put the paper down. You can even use that. And then I always put a little on top as well, because if the paper is very porous, which most papers are, then you want to kind of create a little bit of a seal so that you could put other materials on top. So if you wanted to put paint or markers or the Caran d'Ache crayons, this kind of creates a little bit of a seal so that the paper won't buckle or wrinkle, and then you'll have like a nice flat image. So those are 2 different things you could use to adhere any kind of collage paper to your paper to get started. So the next thing you could do, if you're not too keen on collage papers at first, is to just use paint to get started. Now what I would suggest doing is any paper that you use to get started using paint, I would put down some gesso first. Just put down a layer of gesso so that the paper is a little bit stronger, it has a little tooth, and it will create a barrier so it again won't buckle. So we want to kind of give it a little bit of strength, especially if it's a thinner weight paper. So when you put paint down, what I would suggest is not thinking too hard about it. You don't want to worry about, like, is this the right shape or is it in the right spot? Because the beauty of acrylic paints, which I use mostly, is you can always paint over it. So this is an example of something that I had some leftover paint, which I always try to use the paint I have, even if it's just throwing it on a piece of paper like this, and I just kind of painted it on. Now I save this so that when I'm feeling like I need a little inspiration, I already have something started. I don't have to think too hard about it. So it's a real kind of great hack to get started on a mixed media piece without having to face that blank page. So here's another example. This was just some extra paint that I had. This color is actually the yellow and the blue together, and I just kind of moshed it on, and then I'll go back into this and probably put some collage papers on top of it. But it gives me a little beginning without having to worry too much about what I'm going to do. This is an example of a little bit of everything. So these are all different colors I've used on all different pieces, and I kind of used this as a catch-all, and it's become like an interesting little piece in itself. But eventually I'll probably put some collage over it, and bring it together in a more cohesive vibe. But just something to think about when you're starting on any kind of painting. You want to make sure that you're using colors that appeal to you and tools that appeal to you, as well as papers. Anything that excites you and gets you interested, that's what you want to use. So you want to pay attention to kind of what makes your heart go a little flutter, so that it gives you an indication of what to follow. So now the third way I would suggest to get started on a mixed media page is to just have fun with your supplies. I mean, the whole idea of creating and making some pretty piece of artwork is really your self-expression, right? It's like what you enjoy to do. So something that I like playing with is modeling paste. It's very easy to use. You could just put a stencil down and you put a little paste on top. It comes in all different varieties, and you could even add colors to it if you want. And it just creates a little texture. You just pull it through on the stencil. And what that does is just creates a little lift, a little different texture on the paper. And then it kind of gets you started from there, right? Because you're thinking, oh, that's kind of a cool shape. Let me think of how I can add to that. And in continuing having fun with your supplies, use things like your Caran d'Ache crayons, right? You don't have to create anything exciting at first. Just kind of draw around, make some lines, and then maybe go back in with a little water and see how that kind of comes together. You can just make it into a little bit more of like a watercolor feel. Right? And then what about your stamps? Just kind of adding a few stamps here and there and starting from there. Everything can be painted over or kind of pasted over. So I think the most important part of getting started on any mixed media is to think about your intention. What is the feeling you want to have when you look at it? What is the focal point you want to have? Do you have something in mind that you wanted to use? Is there a particular animal or a flower or just kind of something you want to incorporate in it? That can be kind of your inspiration. So you want to keep it simple. Don't think too much about what you're doing. Just kind of let the time that you're relaxing and enjoying yourself be part of the process. So you want to just kind of have fun with your supplies and not worry so much about how it's going to turn out. So you can see how that modeling paste kind of gives you a jumping off point. You could color it, you could keep it white, you could use sprays, or this is an ink that I used. And it's just a lot of fun to play with all the different tools and materials. But I think the key to any creating art piece is to really just pay attention to what works for you. Because if you enjoy it and you like it, then you're going to attract other people that like it as well. So then once you're done with your first layer, you can kind of layer on top of it. You could add some paint pens as well. These Posca paint markers are so much fun. They come in all different sizes and thicknesses, but it's like painting with a pen. So you could do little doodles and designs with that, and then maybe layer over it on top with some deli paper because you can kind of see the design underneath. So this looks like a little bit of a mishmash of everything, which it is, but it's just to give you some ideas on how to break through. It's called your way in. How do you get your way in to getting into your painting and getting creating and getting to that point of flow and relaxing? So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you would like to see another video just like this that kind of helps you get through another block, you can see it right here on the screen, and I hope to see you again soon.